Limerick City Community Radio.
Your city, your station, your voice.
Hey, and welcome to the Flow Grow Experience. We're coming to you live on 99.9 FM and online streaming at www.lccor.ie. Limerick City Community Radio, your city, your station, your voice. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I hope you are all keeping well on this lovely autumn morning. This morning we're having the live chatters with Alexander Ray. And Alexander Ray is passionate about catalyzing personal and collective transformation, facilitating learning events and co-creating conscious spaces. Now, what does that mean? It means that he is a life coach, a psychologist, he's a holistic massage therapist, but really most importantly, he encourages people to awake their power and purpose on earth, own their brilliance and dreams. He's Colombian born and an active indigenous member and recognized herbalist practitioner, shamanic healer of the Muisca Chicha community in Colombia with a spiritual, which has spiritual and legal permits required to do by the indigenous law and is fully trained as a shamanic practitioner. Good morning, Alex. How are you?
Good morning, Sarah Lee. Thank you so much for inviting me here to your show.
Yeah, no, it's really great to connect with you. I know as a herbalist that you use nature and the natural value of living beings to give and receive what is valuable in life. And you do this by facilitating very interesting workshops that allow people to experience a different aspect of themselves. Do you want to share a little bit with the listeners about what you do and, what that reflects?
Thank you so much. Mainly, I hold sacred spaces for transformation. I made in the last 10 years, along my career, 10, 15 years, and my career as a holistic therapist, a psychologist, as you mentioned, all these theoretical part that is part of who I am. I came out with different workshops. One of them is, for example, the shamanic drum making. The other is awakening movement. And the other, for example, is awakening the inner child.
Okay, those all together sound very, very fascinating. So the second one you mentioned was awakening what? Awakening
movement.
Awakening movement. Okay. And what would that entail? Is that like body movement? Is it dancing? What would that entail?
This workshop came as a part of my practice as a dancer, as I've been dance instructor and choreographer for a long time, mainly in salsa and Latino rhythms. But since I become a therapist, I realized the need to introduce other practices to the movement, different to couple movement, as more into an introspection of movement to understand the emotions. So I took classes in fire rhythms, biodance, trance dance, basically all these practices of solo movement, contact movement, in order for us, everyone, no matter the age, to understand that what we are communicating to the world with our body.
Wow.
That is not always the same what we think and what we say.
Okay, that's a very interesting observation where dance becomes a little bit more than the nightclub.
Yes.
So when we go spiritual, when we connect with this spiritual aspect of dance, or even, I suppose, the spiritual aspect of drum making, what type of transformation do we expect to find, or what journey do we embark on?
In my experience, as we are living in this Western life, very fast pace, we all often forget to be with us, and that happens to all type of people from different backgrounds. So the necessity of us to be in touch with us, within us, is very important for us to go to move forward in the future, but also learning the lessons from the past. Throughout these practices, we kind of go on an encounter, what I call encounter with the inner child, that mainly is, by my point of view and many other physicians, is where majority of traumas, a majority of shadows, a majority of lessons we need to learn in this lifetime.
Okay, wow. Okay, so basically you're helping people to take a kind of a quantum leap to actually knowing themselves more, and possibly, you know, you can leave feeling more enabled or capable to deal with life. I know that
Yes,
you
indeed.
grew up in Colombia, and that that most of your work has an indigenous tone or quality to it. Perhaps you could share, you know, a little bit about like what it is to be a shaman, and what that job entails.
It's it's a long life decision, and for us in South America, in my indigenous community Muisca Chibcha, we don't call ourselves shamans. We call ourselves men of or women of medicine. What it's entitled is to be able to transcend, to be able to be in the ordinary world and also in other non-ordinary worlds, to see the beyond the past and to see the beyond the present, to teach people mainly to be here in this present, but also to unknot the different circumstances that happen to us. Because all of us, we came to this lifetime, this school of life, to transcend. So majority of people that I help with, sometimes they get and we got stuck into situations because the limitations and the upbringing, cultural and religion that make imprints in our mind and our soul, that it put sometimes false ideas that mainly some of those ideas are not true. So the transformation and transmutation of those ideas is where set the people free.
Okay, wow. So tell me a little bit about what it is to be free then, because I'm sure you grew up in a different, like your childhood was probably different, you know, to a Western person's childhood, in that you probably grew up in the forest, or is that my assumption? What do you like? What differences have you found between, you know, I suppose westernized culture and indigenous culture? And is trauma the same across the board?
I think the human traumas are very similar. What it changes is the environment. Of course, not every kid and not every person has the fortune to grow up in really in touch with nature. Because for a person who grow up in the forest or close to nature, it's very easy to understand plants. It's very easy to understand how the plants work and how understand also that the plants are our allies that exist in this earth before us. In comparison with a Western upbringing, I think in the Western societies there is more distraction that avoid children and people to be with themselves because there is so much to do and there is so much distraction that sometimes avoid people to address what it has to be done in regards their healing or the regards the spiritual evolution, if this is what they want. Because obviously none of those things are because you have to, it's because you feel it.
I get you. So it's a kind of a rewiring of your nervous system, like to become more attuned to a natural way or a natural way of living.
Yes, it's more move, as many of my masters says, and overall very short, it's move from the theoretical mind, logical mind, into the feeling. Whatever is coming to the feeling, it makes us feel alive and it makes us to feel connected with us and with the environment that we are living.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure there's people listening, Alex, and well, I know one, for one, I'm one of them, because I would be quite thinky, I would be quite analytical. How do we drop into the feeling space, and feel ourselves as connected to that space? I suppose you could also call it the heart space, maybe.
Yes.
When we're so attuned and used to looking at the world from that type of analytical mindset, how do we drop into feeling?
Basically, understanding that this analytical brain is the result of progression of societies and evolution of societies, but we as a human beings, as many people who are listening right now, have listened that we are light and we are just using this body in this lifetime, but in this point of view, we are eternal. So when you live from the concept of this eternal light, this analytical brain is too short because the attachments and the struggles, mainly high percentage, are related to material things given in this society, that in this long and wider perspective, it will not exist.
That's amazing. What's more mind-blowing is how do you yourself keep detached and keep embodied in that space? I presume that there's a lot of differences living here in westernized culture, and how do you keep detached? What's your secret to keeping and maintaining this space in yourself away from your culture and your home?
I'm very grateful for the experiences that I've been through, and not all of them have been easy, and that's what it makes us life and human travelers. What I mainly do is also my experience in the last 20 years have been in and out. So I live here in Europe, but I also visit the Amazon every year and to visit my family and be in touch with my community. And it's a reminder all the time and how the things should be. So compassion is one of the keys to be able to detach and to understand that it's like a navigating in different worlds, in these cosmic worlds. And that's one of them, the practice that I do, movement, back to the movement, back to meditation, back to the plant medicines, and back to the simplicity. And I think this is one of them, back to the simplicity.
Yeah, I remember actually attending, one of your drum making classes. Now, I wasn't actually making the drum myself, but I was observing.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, my God, this is an amazing way to unwind yourself emotionally and psychically. Because as you were progressing, you were talking about, how this is releasing, the process is releasing, kind of any kind of pent up feelings or condensed emotions or trauma, and you were completely in tune with everybody and their drum making. But do you want to explain a little bit about the importance of the drum and how drum making is so important as part of this process of becoming more embodied and freeing oneself?
Yes, thank you. In my anthropological research, that is part of my journey as a medicine person or shaman or studying this connection with nature, I came across with this beautiful idea of many indigenous communities in South America, in the Amazon, in North America, Canada, Nordic countries, and Russia, all the countries that I have been visiting and sharing with indigenous communities, and also in Africa. All of them, those ancient civilizations and still alive indigenous communities have the drum, as even the Irish, even the Celts,
Yeah.
the Byron, yes, is still alive. So if you compare all these old traditions, all of them they have in their music a drum in many forms and shapes. But it reminds us the sound of our mother, or us and the warmth of our mother and our heartbeat. It's a sound that is common for us, is very close to us, and it's also related to the 432 megahertz, the healing frequency. Because as we know, mainly in this society, we listen for 440 megahertz. Mainly all the music that we have in radios and so on are made in 440 megahertz. That is nothing to do with the healing and our nature frequency. If we take a machine to measure the frequencies given by a tree, by a river, by nature itself, all of them are 432 megahertz. And if you play the drum, it's also 432. That means theoretically and logically we don't understand, but when we play the drum, leaving aside the technique, we feel calm and we feel home because it makes us to feel connected. So in comparison with those old indigenous communities, mainly and all of them, almost all of them, use the drums for ceremony, use the drums to conduct rituals, and there is also a very strong current or thoughts given by shamanism practice in Tibet and Japan, where the drums are used for war, and also in the big temples in Tibet, the drums are always present in different ways. But these frequencies and these rhythms are a very high influence for our brain to be in tune with our bodies. So in those sessions that I do, for instance, I just have done one shamanic drum making workshop last Saturday, and I took everyone to a journey when all of us, we finished the drum, and I took one person to the center of the space, and we blessed the person with the sound of all the drums, of 20 people around the person drumming to that person.
That sounds so beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful because through that action, we are honoring the presence of the person, but we are also in tune in a circular way and putting all the vibration towards to that person.
Yeah, and I suppose we don't do that enough. You know, we don't actually really listen or honor the other person sometimes. We've learned to kind of be more individualistic in modern culture. You know, a lot of it is like the selfie generation, the WhatsApp generation. It's like, it's about oneself and their needs and their wants. And it's not so much looking at, what someone else might need or want. So it's, in some ways we live in, a dual reality. Like, there is one way that brings us home and there's another way that takes us in another direction away from ourselves, which is very interesting. Even what you were saying about the radio band frequency at 44 or at 40 hertz, and then our
40.
natural frequency being 432 hertz. But what would you see, and, from talking to, your elders in your tribe, what would you see as the biggest threat to humanity right now?
I think I heard from these elders many times is, again, the distraction. My master and I, we always talk about this shamanic renaissance for the modern human. And it's true that we have to be open to go in the flow of this evolution. And we cannot avoid it. We cannot, not all of us, we have the opportunity to go back to the forest and live in the mountains or just continue the life like this. It's very hard. So, but what there is a need nowadays, and the biggest threat, is this fast connection, is this what is called glass stage, or the glass, there is a word for that, is the glass phenomenon, when all of us, we are behind a glass, mobile phone, tablet, computer, but we are lacking sometimes in real touch. So basically, this is the biggest threat, because we should witness this sense of connection and this sense of human possibilities, where we can witness in the transformation of many people.
So what is the plant medicine for today's society? What is the plant medicine that can potentially heal people of their disconnection, according to your indigenous ways?
Oh, sorry, just the connection here. Could you repeat again, please?
Absolutely. What, in your opinion, and according to the indigenous elders, is the plant medicine for today's society that can cure this ailment of disconnection?
Yes, indeed. So it's the compassion. And one of them is the understanding that all of us, we are going through different journeys towards to the same point. And when we understand this just simple way of seeing things, we are more in tune and more in awareness in what the other person is living and the other person is going through. So it's what many people say is love, and that's basically understanding in the way of compassion.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, Alex, well, we're going to finish off with a song that you have chosen yourself. And it's called Dentro, Teresa de Jesús, yeah?
Yeah, Teresa de Jesús adentro, inside. All the medicine is inside.
All the medicine is inside. Okay, everybody, and you can find Alex at, let me just see here now, I have it here. It is www.discoveryourheart.net. And you can find all of his respective pages on Facebook and on Instagram, Discover Your Heart with Alexander Ray. Alex, thanks so much for coming on the Flow Grow Experience and sharing your insights and wisdom, and in the most gentle and beautiful way. Thank you for your gentle approach. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to having the live chatters again with you soon sometime.
Lovely. Thank you so much for the invitation. and we will be here around.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Ciao,
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Thank you. Bye bye.
Sánate a ti mismo y mira adentro, adentro, que la medicina está allá adentro, adentro. Sánate a ti mismo y mira adentro, adentro, que la medicina está allá adentro, adentro. Todo el amor está allá adentro, adentro, y la compasión está allá adentro, adentro. Todo el perdón está allá adentro, adentro. Todo el universo está allá adentro, 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 adentro. Sana tu familia y mira adentro, adentro, que la medicina está allá adentro, adentro. Sana tu familia y mira adentro, adentro, que la medicina está allá adentro, adentro. Todo el amor está allá adentro, adentro, y la compasión está allá adentro, adentro. Todo el perdón está allá adentro, adentro. Todo el universo está allá adentro, 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 adentro. Sana tu mamita y mira adentro, adentro, que la medicina está allá adentro, adentro. Sana tu papito y mira adentro, adentro, que la medicina está allá adentro, adentro. Y todo el amor está allá adentro, adentro, y la compasión está allá adentro, adentro. Todo el perdón está allá adentro, adentro. Todo el universo está allá adentro, 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 adentro. Adentro, adentro, que la medicina está allá adentro, adentro. Sana a tu hermanito y mira adentro, adentro, que la medicina está allá adentro, adentro. Y todo el amor está allá adentro, adentro, y la compasión está allá adentro, adentro. Todo el perdón está allá adentro, adentro. Todo el universo está allá adentro, 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 adentro. Sana a tu hijita y mira adentro, adentro, que la medicina está allá adentro, adentro. Sana a tu hijito y mira adentro, adentro, que la medicina está allá adentro, adentro. Todo el amor está allá adentro, adentro, y la compasión está allá adentro, adentro. Todo el perdón
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook. Just search for Limerick City Community Radio or www.facebook.com/Limerick City Community Radio.
Coming to you online on lccr.ie 24/7. Keep it here on LCCR.